Hello, and welcome to Afternoon Tea with Karen and Karen's Library. The government has finally announced the number of incinerators going around Victoria.
The rubbish just keeps coming. 3 hours from Sydney, nearly half of the city's non-recyclable waste winds up here at the Woodlawn landfill.
So 1 million tonnes arrives here at Woodlawn on a train, and that's what we do with it. We put it in this landfill.
For 2 decades, this former zinc and copper mine has been filling up with what Sydney-siders throw away. The multinational waste giant that runs this landfill has other plans here. Just down the road, it's proposing to build a plant that will burn rubbish in a high-tech furnace to produce electricity, a common method used around the world, known as energy from waste.
There's an incredible opportunity, I think, in Australia to convert from landfilling our residual waste to move to energy from waste. And that means taking residual waste that we can't recycle and we can't compost and turning it into energy and recyclable materials.
That is the promise of energy from waste. It's already happening in Australia. After years of delays, the first plant in Kwinana, south of Perth, is operating, set to produce enough power for 50,000 homes. But many critics argue energy from waste should be known by what we used to call it, incineration, and they dispute that it is in any way sustainable.
I don't want my kids to grow up in a throwaway society, one that, is unsustainable, and where your attitude to waste is I can just toss it away because we can throw it in an incinerator and burn it.
There are 11 energy from waste plants either operating or proposed across the country. Kwinana and East Rockingham in Western Australia, 6 in Victoria, 2 in New South Wales, and 1 in Queensland. Denmark was an energy from waste pioneer in Europe, where land is at a premium and there are 500 plants. Copenhagen's Amag Bakke plant is famed for its ski run on the roof, winter fun literally on top of rubbish. But Danish researcher Stina Madsen says the perception of energy from waste as a more sustainable alternative to landfill has changed dramatically as Denmark focuses on its target to reduce greenhouse gas emissions.
There's really a growing focus on the CO2 emissions that come from waste incineration. And to meet that national target, incineration is considered problematic because it leads to CO2 emissions.
Veolia's Richard Kirkman says emissions from energy from waste plants are far less damaging than emissions from landfills.
If you look at the carbon balance of these type of facilities, we have to reduce the methane we emit from landfills, and it's proven that this is better. That's why it's public policy, and we're responding to that public policy by investing in it.
Denmark's energy from waste plants have a big problem. The country doesn't produce enough rubbish to keep them going.
There is a net import in Denmark of waste for incineration, primarily from Germany, the UK, and Italy. You have a state-of-the-art facility, but you also need to feed it with waste, and the whole narrative around waste is changing.
Jill Nambu and her neighbours know all about what it takes to feed rubbish to an energy from waste plant. She lives in Hampton Park in Melbourne's east. Waste management company Veolia already runs a landfill here, just hundreds of meters away from homes. Now it wants to build a waste transfer station for rubbish to fuel an energy from waste plant.
I don't understand why they have to put it literally right in a community residential area. It just that's my biggest concern is health and safety.
For years, the landfill here was due to close, the land remediated into a park. Now, hundreds of trucks of rubbish could be coming and going for the next 25 years. What was your reaction when you started to find out more about what was planned here?
Sickening. It makes me want to cry because these companies just don't think about the children. And I met with them. They came to some EPA consultation, and consultation, and I talk to them. I'm like, you have to sleep with this when you go to sleep. They don't care. They just don't care.
Some 500 trucks a day will haul rubbish in and out of this proposed waste transfer station. It will be dumped, compacted, loaded onto A-double trucks, and moved past these homes, up this road, and out of Melbourne. The rubbish will be trucked 120 kilometres to here, Maryvale in Gippsland. More than 300,000 tons of waste will be burned in a furnace to produce energy, mostly for the paper mill behind me.
Dumping on our communities!
We say no!
Groups opposed to the waste transfer station at Hampton Park have been keeping up the pressure. The development application was refused by Victoria's Environmental Protection Agency. Veolia is appealing that decision. What will we see here once the energy from waste plant goes ahead?
So we'll use this old mining area and...
Back in Woodlawn in New South Wales, Veolia's Australia and New Zealand CEO says he understands locals may object to these projects. But for the overall community, he says, they make sense.
The bottom line is we have to have infrastructure for waste because everybody produces some every week. They put their bin out and it has to be collected and it has to go somewhere. So we're very open to communicating with local communities, giving them all the information they need. But we also think we need to build the assets.
But nearby the proposed Woodlawn energy from waste plant, locals are angry. New South Wales policy bans incinerators from metropolitan Sydney, but not from where they live.
We feel very discriminated against that the New South Wales government has decided from a precautionary principle that incinerators can't be built in Sydney because of the risk to human health and the environment. What about us? Why don't we count? Why don't our farms count, our businesses count, our families count?
Tom Martin's farm is 5 kilometres from the proposed energy from waste incinerator. He understands why they're not suitable in Sydney, and he says they shouldn't be here either.
To then turn around and just go, we're going to drag it to regional New South Wales and do it here, is a complete disregard for these people and treats the people in regional areas like second-class citizens. It says that the state government doesn't value the long-term health outcomes of people down here like it does in people in Mossman. You know, there's two standards here.
Critics of energy from waste say instead of burning rubbish, the focus should be on producing much less and recycling more. But Stina Madsid says in Europe, progress is slow. And for now, energy from waste isn't going anywhere.
I think, yes, incineration is looked upon more critically. I think it's unlikely that it's going to completely disappear from a European context in the near future because there aren't alternatives and because we're not going to succeed, I think, unfortunately, with substantially reducing the waste, the generation of waste.
So 6 in Victoria. I knew there were 4. I overheard there were 25 listening to the Laura incinerator meeting, which is probably where Ballarat's rubbish will end up going. Unless these people succeed in stopping the Laura incinerator, and then it'll go somewhere else. And off to a playlist we go. Oh, that's better. See you later. Bye.